to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Eccles.
It's a windy and a blustery Wednesday afternoon, and I am once again tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And I know we are a few days early, but as we stated before, I am going to be gone this weekend. Headed out for my first 50K race, trail race of the year. I'll be in Utah. So, hey, if any listeners are down in Utah and you want to swing by, and I'll be over by in Virgin, Utah, actually, over by Zion Park. And if anyone who listens to this podcast wants to swing by and cheer for me as I either leave the starting line or cheer for me as I hopefully drag my sorry self across the finish line, that would be much appreciated. Not quite sure. I've got 12 hours or 11 or 12 hours, I believe, to complete the race, and you are more than welcome to come hang out, and that'd be the only time you see me is either when I'm leaving or I'm coming in. So anyhow, I wanted to get you guys out a little something. You know, our numbers, our downloads of the podcast actually have been going really, really well. In the last couple of weeks, they have started to spike a little bit, which is fantastic. I appreciate that. If you're listening, I appreciate it. If you're sharing it with your friends, your families, your neighbors, any anti-gun friends that you have, I want to say thank you. Just make sure that if you do listen, that you subscribe, and that helps the ratings, it helps the numbers, it helps people find us on iTunes and on Spotify. But I appreciate all the love. So I felt it was important, though, to get you guys something. I didn't want to let it go for a week. I screwed up a few weeks back on one of my editing endeavors, episodes, and anyhow, I kind of had to pull that episode down, so I kind of felt bad about that, and I didn't want to miss another weekend. So I don't got a lot for you guys today, but just something, just some random thoughts I had during the week. I just got done actually watching a video that was sent to me by a listener, Josh. He's over in Boise area. He sent me a video, and there was this. I don't even know what the name of the video is. I know this guy goes around and does quite a few of these videos. This guy that shoots himself, and he shoots himself with paintball guns, and he wraps himself in firecrackers and lights them off, lights them on fire. And I'm sure the guy's making more money than me at this. I don't know, but he had this one I just saw where he held a paintball gun at .0 blank range right up to his face, right up against his lips. And he pulled the trigger on it, and he makes his videos, and he thinks they're absolutely funny. The one I saw, it comes out, it hits him, it knocks a tooth out, and he can't understand why he lost a tooth, and the whole thing is just ridiculous. Yeah, I watched it, and I did kind of chuckle a little bit, but I feel like those give really bad, they give firearm owners, gun owners, a really bad name, that there's idiots out there that do that. And I know, granted, it was with a paintball gun, but it was still, it still is a tool that fires a projectile, okay? And that could spawn all kinds of crazy videos. I mean, we've all seen the videos, and we've joked about them the last few episodes about people shooting, trying to shoot each other, wearing bulletproof vests and shooting at each other. I believe that was just last episode in Arkansas. We've joked about numbskulls, demonstrating the 21-foot rule and shooting each other. But it is funny, and we all like to laugh at this stuff. But every time something like this happens, all it does is it takes gun owners, it takes responsible gun owners down a notch. People look at us bad. Everyone with they think and they say that everyone with a firearm must be stupid. They must be crazy. These guys aren't smart. Look at these guys in Arkansas. Look at this guy shooting himself in the face with a paintball gun. I mean, come on. And really, to be honest, every time we click on that, every time we watch on that, that gives that video another like, another view, another whatever. And we're guilty as we're guilty as anything, I guess, because we talk about them on the podcast. It just encourages that type of behavior. It's what they're looking for. They're looking for a click, a like, a play, a repost, a comment, and it's just something that we need to be aware of. As gun owners, we try to put on that responsible air, the air of responsibility, and show that we do know what we're doing. We are responsible. We handle these like adults. We don't play games with them. And there's too much of that stuff online in this world, on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever, to begin with. So there's my rant on stupid videos. Something else I want to talk about a little bit, and it just I just cringe whenever I see this too. So this is going to go back to videos, but then it's going to go to some real life, situations that I'm aware of. But you see those videos of the guys hand their wives, their girlfriends, their moms, their sisters, or whoever, or that new shooter this firearm that's way too big for them. They don't teach them anything right about it. They don't show them the safe way to handle it. They don't show them the correct way to grip it, the correct way to fire it, and then they shoot it and it scares them and they drop it, or they spin the gun around, or it flies back and hits them in the face. Just absolutely appalling is what that is. And why? I don't know. I want to say as an instructor, but as a dad who has taught his kids to shoot, and I've never done that purposely to any of my kids. I've never handed them something that was too big for them, knowing that it was going to hurt them, and been okay with it. The times I've done it is I wasn't thinking. I thought they could handle it. They couldn't. That type of thing. I would never purposely do that to anyone. I've had so many people take a class from me, take my class, and they flinched because grandpa or dad or husband or boyfriend or whatever handed them a gun that was too big. They watched him, he stood back with all his friends and watched this person pull the trigger and watch him get scared and watch it fly out of their hands and watched him miss and watch him, get bit by the slide or whatever. And that does nothing but cause problems in the past. At a later date, whenever that person, they're scared of the firearm, they have a horrible flinch. You've done that person no favors at all. And it's irresponsible, and it's stupid, and it's almost like abuse to a certain extent, depending on who it is and I guess the meaning behind it, but absolutely ridiculous. I was combing through Facebook this weekend as I was sitting at the gun show. I was combing through Facebook, and I saw a picture of a gal that I know who went out shooting with some of her friends. And I guess the guy that took him shooting, he's in the military or whatever. He's got some firearms. I don't know him personally that well. And shows this picture of her shooting this AR, this gal shooting this AR that this kid had gave her to shoot. And she's doing fine with it. But then she posted this picture of her shooting this handgun. And I can't tell what kind of handgun it is. It looks like a bigger caliber, possibly. It's hard to say. I didn't get a good look at it. I will preface this with that, but it looks like maybe a 45. I mean, I'm not sure. Anyhow, she's holding with one hand. It's cocked kind of crooked. She's not even looking. She's holding with her right hand. Her left hand is up in front of her face. She's got both of her eyes closed. She's not even facing the gun. It's just kind of out there, and she's shooting the thing. I mean, she doesn't have the right stance. She's got earplugs in, but she's got no eye protection in. Are you freaking kidding me? She posted on her, this is me shooting a handgun. I've retired now. I'm not going to do this again. I'm jokingly, I've retired from handgun shooting. And I got on there and I sent her some messages and I was like, please don't, if you want to shoot a gun again, let me know or let me help. I could take you out and you could have a much better experience. I mean, she wasn't even taught the basic safety precautions. Granted, she had ear protection, but she had no eye protection on. She wasn't gripping the thing right. I'm surprised it didn't fall out of her freaking hand. I mean, she wasn't even looking. Her head. I've seen people flinch aim the gun and flinch at the same time they pull the trigger and or squeeze the trigger, have you, and seen them, like squeeze both their eyes shut. Her head is totally turned away from the gun. She wasn't even looking where she was shooting. Are you kidding me? That's so ridiculous. That's how you, and this is a person who I know isn't totally against firearms, but she was kind of scared of them to begin with, and you've done her no favors. You've done the shooting culture, the shooting world no favors. You've created someone who maybe isn't anti-gun, but is now scared of them, does not want to shoot them, and I guarantee you she will not probably fight for our rights necessarily if it comes down to them, because the last experience that she had with a firearm was a bad one. Absolutely ridiculous. I was just kind of appalled to see the picture and to know that she was taken out, and the person that put this little activity together is is in the military. Come on. I know they teach safety in the military. I would think they do anyway. I mean, I haven't been in the military, but I would assume they teach safety. They at least teach you the basic fundamentals of proper shooting. I mean, I would assume. If they don't, my money sure as hell is going to, my tax dollars are sure as hell going to waste. But that's just, I hate it when I see pictures like that. I honestly hate it when I see pictures like that. And then, you hand this gal, and she's a tough girl, and she could probably handle a 45. And there's nothing wrong with shooting a 45. A brand new shooter who hasn't shot much, who's somewhat timid when it comes to firearms and shooting, and you hand them a freaking 45 caliber handgun, if that's what it was, that's what it looked like to me. And once again, I'm just assuming, but that's what it looked like to me. Are you freaking kidding me? If they're already scared, if they're timid, if they're apprehensive about shooting a firearm, you've just made it that much difficult for that person to go back and even want to shoot a firearm again. Even want to chase down, possibly even owning a firearm for self-defense or learning how to shoot it. You've just given some instructor possibly a mess that he's got to deal with, that they've got to deal with, and the likes of like a really nasty flinch or being scared of the firearm. I hate to see that, and I'm going to call it out every time I see it. It just kind of just disgusts me when I see those pictures or those videos pop up online, and everyone has a good laugh over it, and they think it's just, super, super funny. But what else? Those are my two big, rants. It's kind of hard to get a lot of, conversation going here when it's just me. Everyone else is at work, and I didn't expect them to be here, at 1:30 on a Wednesday afternoon with me. They've all got lives as well. But I will talk about this weekend. I went to spend 2 days at the local gun show here, just answering questions, handing out business cards and stuff like that. And I did do that at least for one day. It was kind of a slower show for some reason, and I wasn't gonna just stick around, sitting around that show when it got real slow. So I went ahead and I stayed all day on Saturday, and I bailed out on Sunday and came home and got some other stuff done. But I did talk to a few people, and I got some people to download the podcast and answered a bunch of questions about my class, and shook hands and kissed babies, all that kind of stuff. But I just went out and said hi to everyone. It was a pretty good Saturday. Good way to spend the Saturday. I did end up sharing. I wasn't sharing. We had our own table, but I was tables right next to this gentleman who is a gunsmith, and I am hopefully going to get him on the podcast real soon, and he can come talk about what he does, and then just sit back and shoot the shit with us and talk about firearms and just stories about guns and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I always like to get. I always like to have guests come in and tell us, what they do in the firearms industry. So, what else? What else do I got going on here? I think, I did. I picked up a new firearm. I finally picked up a Smith & Wesson 380 EZ. I got it used. Got a really good deal on that firearm. when I say used, we're talking barely used. It was still bleeding the oil that the Smith & Wessons are always covered in when you buy them brand new. I mean, that's how new this thing was. I mean, it hadn't even been wiped down. I think it had like 4 or 5 shots taken with it, and they just decided, the gentleman who was selling it just decided he wanted to go with revolvers instead of the semi-autos. So it works for me, man. I got a screaming deal on it. So until then, we will be back. I told you this was going to be short and sweet, but we will be back not this weekend, but we'll be back the next weekend. And I'll have a real quick race report, and I'll hopefully be back here with the guys, and we can kind of all get caught up on the news and what's been going on, and have ourselves a good old time. So once again, thank you for subscribing and sharing the podcast. As always, we always appreciate it. We are nothing without our listeners. We don't have any listeners. Frankly, there's no reason for us to even do this, and we appreciate it a bunch. So everyone have the great rest of the week, and enjoy your weekend. Bye.